There are always surprises here at AirVenture, and one of the best this year is this airplane. It's a de Havilland Mosquito. Hello everyone, this is Paul Bertorelli reporting for AVweb. You know, the Mosquito is a very rare airplane, and there are two reasons for that. The first is that not very many were made, only about 7,800 or so compared to 20,000 Spitfires. Second reason is it's made of wood, mainly spruce and birch. So after the war ended, it was very difficult to preserve these airplanes, and no one bothered, so they simply rotted away. This one has been restored by Warren Denholm, and he's going to tell us a bit about what was involved in doing that. And after that, Mike Spalding is going to give us a detailed cockpit tour of the airplane.
Well, it's a Canadian-built Mosquito, FB26 Mosquito. So it was built at Downsview in Ontario, Canada, in 1945, right at the end of the production. And it was scheduled for delivery to the UK, but the war ended before it got flown across, so it was basically sold off at the end of World War II as surplus, and it laid around in Alberta, Canada for a long time as a kid's plaything, slowly deteriorating in the weather. It made its way across to British Columbia in the 70s. It had been bought by a museum over there who were going to one day rebuild it, but by that time it was basically a basket case. All the wood had mostly rotted away, and it just was in storage in Canada, in British Columbia, until Jerry Yagan from the Military Aviation Museum approached us and said, well, you know, is there another airplane you'd like to restore for the museum? And I had recently seen the molds that had been built for this airplane in a shop in Auckland in New Zealand, and I said to Jerry, you know, well, would you be interested in rebuilding a Mosquito, because there's a guy in Auckland here who's made the mold to build the fuselage, and sort of that was the beginning of it. We located the project in Canada. Jerry got on board with the idea, and we picked it up from British Columbia and shipped it down to New Zealand at the end of 2004 and started work on it then. The rebuild was completed, first flew on 27th September 2012, so more or less 8 years of rebuild. The woodwork part of it was completed in the first 3 years of that process, and then all the restoration of everything else, and you know, finding the engines and finding all the stuff that we needed for it took the rest of the time. You know, obviously the woodwork's quite unique in an airplane like this. The fuselage is built over a mold, and if you don't have the mold you can't really make the fuselage, but the wing is built in the sort of traditional jig fashion. We located a couple of engines that came out of a New Zealand Mosquito that had been kept, and managed to acquire those, put them with the project. They got overhauled in California by Vintage V12s, and they came down in 2010, and slowly but surely it all came together. Because it's the first Mosquito that had been restored, you know, since the production finished, I guess finding the technical information was the biggest challenge. You know, with most of these airplanes, you know, there's been a little industry developed, built up around them, and you know, most of the drawings that are needed to rebuild a B-51 wing, they all exist and have already been found. But with the Mosquito, because nobody had ever really thought it was possible, all that technical information is, you know, got buried away in cupboards and drawers and museums, and you know, it takes a long time to find it all and scan it and make it usable. So the technical side of it is probably the biggest challenge, and then once we knew we had enough there to finish the job off, it was a matter of sort of going around the world finding the missing bits.
As far as flying the airplane, it is, you know, as all airplanes need the same thing: airspeed, altitude, and gas. But this one is actually like flying a couple different airplanes. They lost more of them on the ground than they did in the air in takeoffs and landings, because it's very funny about swinging, and then it kind of gets away from the pilot, and they lost a lot of them in training. So you get past that and get going down the runway, you want to take off at like 125 miles per hour. It gets to 100 really fast, and then it takes as long to get from 100 to 125 just with the friction of the wheels and it just weight and everything else. After it gets off the ground, you get the gear up, and you got to get to 190 mile an hour pretty quick because if you lose an engine, you can't control it. You'll have to pull the good one back and just take what you get. Under 200, 210 mile an hour, it's kind of really sluggish and uses a lot of inputs on the controls just to make it do what you want it to do. So it's not real happy below 200, but when you get over 200, 210 mile an hour, it really tightens up. It takes very little. It's more fighterish above that, and you get above 250 or so, and they get a little harder to move, but they're still very responsive and very nice. The airplane really likes speed, and we'll typically run it at cruise at 225 mile an hour, which is slow for the airplane, but we're just trying to take care of it. But we usually don't go over about like 330 mile an hour with it, even though they could go up to 400 or better. So now let's look at the details of the cockpit. In this Mosquito, starting on the left side, working around, this is your elevator trim indicator. The wheel is down here on the left side, kind of hidden down here to move that. And your throttle's here, and you have your prop levers here. This airplane does not have a mixture controls because it has pressure carburetors that do their own thing, and they lean themselves out, and there's nothing much to do with it. It makes it easy to start. This is your stick here. The fighter bomber and the fighter had a stick, and the bomber version had a yoke. They'll round like you see in a Spitfire or something, but they operate the same. It rotates above your knees. Starting the top here, your standard airspeed indicator, which is in miles per hour, and your horizon, and your vertical speed indicator, altimeter, and your compass. This is your landing gear indicator and flap indicator. They're off right now, but they normally have some orange that shows when your gear is down and up, and your flap indicator right here. Most British airplanes also, this has air, uses air for your brakes and your steering. And this is the pressure on the system here, which is they have it turned off right now, so that's why it's down. It would normally be up here. And this is the brake pressure gauges for your brakes. You use that by up here on the stick. You pull this little handle, and then when you move your pedals, it applies more or less pressure to each pedal. Moving over here, this is your landing gear lever, and to put the gear up and down, your flaps put up and down, and the bomb bay door to open and close. It's a little bit awkward, like, because a lot of the British airplanes are that way. When you have to change hands to manipulate those controls, take your hand off the throttles, switch hands, operate it, and go back. Back up top here, this is your magneto switches, left and right, and a battery switch up there, and left engine start, right engine start. You flip the little levers up and you push the button to prime it, and then you hit the start button and it'll start when you turn the mags on. These are the prop feather buttons to feather the props. If you need to feather, if you lose an engine, you just push the button in and it'll stick in, and when the prop feathers, it'll pop back out. Radio operator there can do Morse code. Your fuel gauges are right here. The main tanks and the outboard tanks, and then this is the fuselage tank that goes in the back. There's a reel antenna that goes out for like HF, and they reel it out. It's on, there's some, these are the weights, the little balls right there to help drag it out. So when they reel it out, it'll go out down below the airplane and hang out. Back behind you there is just all the radios and everything we have, to operate all this stuff up here. Most of it's just old stuff and doesn't work.